morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to our weekly review of how religion impacts humanity. This week's headlines. Young Earth creationist Edwin Poots was elected leader of the Democratic Unionist Party in Northern Ireland. At the Vatican, Pope Francis told an anti-pedophilia group, "Your work is more necessary than ever." All pupils were withdrawn from sex education at an independent Jewish school in Gateshead, England. Israeli police are poised for arrests after a 12-year-old boy died in an unfinished synagogue collapse. An Israeli TV reporter was attacked at a pro-Palestinian rally in Berlin. 4 men were arrested in an anti-Semitism video investigation in North London. Rival Muslim factions clashed in Kinshasa during the Islamic Eid al-Fitr holiday. The Texas governor signed a law banning abortions as early as 6 weeks. An International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia was held on the 17th of May. American Atheists had a meeting with the Biden administration. Northern Ireland Agriculture Minister Edwin Poots was elected leader of the Democratic Unionist Party. Mr. Poots holds religiously influenced views, including his belief that the earth is 6,000 years old. Westminster MP Ian Paisley, son of the Democratic Unionist Party founder Reverend Dr. Ian Paisley, who backed Mr. Poots for leader, said, "We have been boyhood friends and are very, very close. I am personally delighted for him." Speaking in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, Pope Francis said, "Your work is more necessary than ever because, unfortunately, the abuse of children continues. I refer in particular to the solicitations that take place through the internet and the various social media, with pages and portals dedicated to child pornography. This is a scourge that, on the one hand, needs to be addressed with renewed determination by institutions, and, on the other hand, requires an even stronger awareness on the part of families and the various educational agencies." He added, "Even today, we see how often in families the first reaction is to cover everything up, a first reaction that is always there in other institutions and even in the church. We have to fight this old habit of covering up." Every parent has withdrawn their child from sex education classes at an independent faith school with nearly 250 pupils in Gateshead, an inspection report has revealed. The latest Ofsted report for Atheist Girls High School, published on Tuesday, said all parents have exercised their right to withdraw their children from the teaching of sex education. Atheist Girls is an Orthodox Jewish independent school for girls aged 11 to 16, with 246 pupils on the roll. However, the report said leaders of the school have fulfilled their statutory responsibilities regarding the teaching of relationships, health, and sex education, because the school had allowed for sex education to be taught by an external provider from within the Jewish community. According to the report, the school consulted with parents about the content of sex education lessons and informed them that they could withdraw their children from them. The sex education policy anticipates that parents are likely to withdraw their child, the report said. And indeed, all parents withdrew their children following the consultation. 2 Israeli citizens have died, and more than 150 were injured after a tiered seating structure collapsed at a West Bank synagogue during prayers for Shavuot, a major Jewish holiday. The bleacher at the incomplete building was packed with ultra-Orthodox worshippers when the incident occurred on Sunday evening. A spokesman for Magen David Adom, Israel's National Medical Emergency Service, said a man in his 50s and a 12-year-old boy had been pronounced dead by paramedics. Another 157 people were treated for injuries, with military search and rescue troops and army helicopters deployed to convey patients from Givat Ziv, a settlement just outside Jerusalem, to hospitals in the city. The collapse comes weeks after 45 ultra-Orthodox Jews were killed in a stampede at a religious festival in northern Israel, triggering widespread criticism of the extensive autonomy granted to the country's politically powerful ultra-Orthodox minority. The mayor of Givat Ziv has said the building was unfinished and dangerous, and that the police had ignored previous calls to take action. Violent confrontations broke out between protesters and police, and an Israeli TV reporter was also attacked at a pro-Palestinian rally in Berlin on Saturday. Several protests took place across the city, as well as in other parts of Germany over the weekend, coinciding with demonstrations in countries across Europe. Participants waved flags and shouted "Free Palestine." They also expressed anger at Israeli airstrikes on Gaza in the past week, which have killed more than 180 people. Antonia Yamin, a journalist reporting for Israeli state TV, was heckled and then had to run for cover after someone threw a firecracker that went off near her. Reporting on camera, she said, "I suspected that something like this could happen. It's not the first time for me in this part of Berlin with a Hebrew microphone and speaking in Hebrew. Last time the same thing happened, also with a firecracker." There have been multiple reports of anti-Semitic slogans being chanted at protests in German cities, which have been widely condemned by politicians. Protesters also clashed with police after officers attempted to break up a crowd for violating health protocols. Some people threw bottles and stones as well as firecrackers. Police responded with pepper spray and appeared to detain some demonstrators, though the total number of arrests has not yet been confirmed. It comes a day after police used water cannons to quell furious protesters in Paris. Police have arrested 4 men in connection with a video which appeared to show anti-Semitic abuse being shouted from a car in North London. Boris Johnson earlier condemned the shameful racism aimed at British Jews, which had no place in society. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer said the incident was utterly disgusting, adding, "There must be consequences." It comes as Israeli launched strikes on the Gaza Strip after Palestinian militants fired rockets at southern Israeli cities in the worst violence in the region since 2014. On Sunday, a video was posted on social media appearing to show a convoy of cars with Palestinian flags driving down a street in a Jewish area with a man shouting anti-Semitic abuse from a megaphone. This video is from Sky News. The person who filmed the video, who wanted to remain anonymous, said they started filming when they heard excessive hooting outside their window in North London. They happened to stop at a set of traffic lights and I was able to capture what happened. I cried. How is this the world we live in today? They added, I felt immediately frightened and appalled that this is happening in this country. What if I was walking alone wearing something that identified me as Jewish? What might have happened? I don't feel safe in my own home, and that's what terrifies me. Thankfully, a ceasefire has been negotiated between the protagonists of the conflict in Israel. 30 people were handed the death sentence in the Democratic Republic of Congo on Saturday after clashes between two rival Muslim factions this week killed one police officer and injured dozens of members of law enforcement. The fighting in the country's capital, Kinshasa, occurred on Thursday during the Islamic holiday of Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The two Muslim groups had clashed in front of the Martyrs Stadium in the city. The factions were feuding over the right to hold Eid celebrations in the stadium.
A policeman was beaten to death in Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday as rival Muslim groups clashed during Eid celebrations. Members of two opposing camps vying for leadership positions in Congo's Muslim community fought outside Kinshasa's Martyrs Stadium. They had planned to worship there together in a display of unity. Kinshasa Police Chief Silvano Kasongo said 3 civilians and 46 police were wounded.
Unfortunately, there were extremists here and there who did not want the two groups to pray together today. They threw projectiles, violently attacked the police, and we have one policeman dead.
Videos on social media show a police officer being beaten over the head with blunt objects until he fell to the ground, after which his body was set on fire. Officers fired tear gas and warning shots to disperse the crowd. Congo has a relatively small Muslim community, believed to be less than 5% of the country's 19 million people.
Austin, Texas. Republican Governor Greg Abbott on Thursday signed a law that bans abortions in Texas before many women even know they are pregnant, and it differs from similar efforts around the states, leaving enforcement to private citizens who can sue doctors or anyone who helps a woman get an abortion. The law puts Texas in line with more than a dozen other states that ban abortions after a fetal heartbeat can be detected, possibly as early as 6 weeks. It would take effect in September, but federal courts have mostly blocked states from enforcing similar measures. But with the Supreme Court this week agreeing to take up a Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, abortion rights activists worry that a ruling favourable to the state could lay the groundwork for allowing even more restrictions, including a so-called heartbeat bill. The life of every unborn child with a heartbeat will be saved from the ravages of abortion, Governor Abbott said in the bill signing at his office. Texas's version is unique in that it prohibits state officials from enforcing the ban. Instead, it allows anyone, even someone from outside Texas, to sue an abortion provider or anyone else who may have helped someone get an abortion after the limit and seek financial damages of up to $10,000 per defendant. Critics say that this provision would allow abortion opponents to flood the courts with lawsuits to harass doctors, patients, nurses, domestic violence counsellors, a friend who drove a woman to a clinic, or even a parent who paid for a procedure. Before the bill reached Abbott's desk, abortion rights groups signalled that they would challenge the law. The goal is clear: to relentlessly attack our reproductive rights until abortion is a right in name only. Passing these bills is not leadership, it is cruel and extremist, said Alexis McGill Johnson, president of Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Advanced technology can detect an electric signal flutter as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy, even though the embryo doesn't yet have a heart. An embryo is termed a fetus beginning in the 11th week of pregnancy, medical experts say. Texas law currently bans abortion after 20 weeks, with exceptions for a woman with a life-threatening medical condition, or if the fetus has a severe abnormality. More than 90% of abortions take place in the first 13 weeks of a woman's pregnancy, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Supreme Court will probably hear the Mississippi case in the fall, with a decision likely in spring 2022. The 17th of May was the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia. It's a day to recognise that while the rights of the LGBTQI+ people have significantly advanced in recent decades, progress remains patchy and geographically uneven. Just as the gradual expansion of anti-discrimination legislation offers optimism, tragedies like the recent honour killing of 20-year-old gay Iranian Ali Reza Fazeli Monfared, that we reported on last week, serve as a stark reminder of the work ahead. The past year has also put an incredible strain on LGBTQI+ communities as governments in all regions of the world neglected them in their responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. After concluding an hour-long meeting between leaders of national atheist, humanist and secular groups and the leadership of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, American Atheist President Nick Fish released the following statement. We're pleased that the Biden-Harris administration takes seriously its obligation to meet the needs of atheists, humanists and other non-religious Americans. It's reassuring to know that the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships shares our commitment to government neutrality, church-state separation, and religious pluralism, and that means including atheists. While we continue to have deep concerns about the reliance on faith-based service providers in our nation's social safety net, it is encouraging that this administration is committed to meaningfully engaging with our community and being responsive to the policy concerns of our constituents. American Atheists will continue to advocate for more robust protections for Americans seeking services from religious providers to ensure that no one is turned away from a shelter, an adoption or foster agency, or denied access to any other basic service due to religiously motivated discrimination. And if this administration fails to live up to its obligations under the Constitution or to its commitments to religious equality and representation for non-religious Americans, we will hold them accountable. We look forward to continued collaboration between our organization and all departments of this administration as we ensure that all Americans, including the tens of millions of non-religious Americans we represent, have a seat at the table and a voice in our government. I hope this is the first of many more productive discussions with members of the Biden-Harris administration. Stay tuned on this channel for the live Ask an Atheist show, now renamed to Free Thought Hour, with guest Eric Green from Kentucky, starting in about 10 minutes. We will be back with our weekly news review on our platforms at the same time next week. Please like, share, set the notifications, etc.